Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Today we are reading from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, first canto, chapter 17, verse 39, and verse 40 is like a continuation or conclusion of 39. So we'll read 40 also. Punascha yachamanaya Jatarupam adat prabhu Tato nritam madam kamam Rajovairam cha panchamam Punascha yachamanaya Jatarupa adat prabhu Tato nritam madam kamam Rajovairam cha panchamam Punascha yachamanaya Jatarupam adat prabhu Tato nritam madam kamam Rajovairam cha panchamam. Okay, word by word translation. Punaha. Again. Cha. Also. Yachamanaya. To the beggar. Jatarupam. Gold. Adat. Gave away. Prabhu. The king. Tataha. Whereby. Anritam. Falsehood. Madam. Intoxication. Kamam. Lust. Rajaha. On account of a passionate mood. Vairam. Enmity. Cha. Also. Panchamam. The fifth one. Translation. The personality of Kali asked for something more, and because of his begging, the king gave him permission to live where there is gold, because wherever there is gold, there is also falsity, intoxication, lust, envy, and enmity. Purport. Although Mahārāja Parīkṣit gave Kali permission to live in 4 places, it was very difficult for him to find the places, because during the reign of Mahārāja Parīkṣit there were no such places. Therefore, Kali asked the king to give him something practical which could be utilized for his nefarious purposes. Mahārāja Parīkṣit thus gave him permission to live in a place where there is gold, because wherever there is gold there are all the above-mentioned 4 things, and over and above them there is enmity also. So the personality of Kali became gold standardized. According to Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, gold encourages falsity, intoxication, prostitution, envy, and enmity. Even a gold standard exchange and currency is bad. Gold standard currency is based on falsehood because the currency is not on par with the reserved gold. The basic principle is falsity because currency notes are issued in value beyond that of the actual reserved gold. This artificial inflation of currency by the authorities encourages prostitution of the state economy. The prices of commodities become artificially inflated because of bad money or artificial currency notes. Bad money drives away good money. Instead of paper currency, actual gold coins should be used for exchange, and this will stop prostitution of gold. Gold ornaments for women may be allowed by control, not by quality but by quantity. This will discourage lust, envy, and enmity. When there is actual gold currency in the form of gold coins, the influence of gold in producing falsity, prostitution, etc. will automatically cease. There will be no need of an anti-corruption ministry for another term of prostitution and falsity of purpose. And then verse 40, Amuni panchastanani hyadharma prabhava kalihi autarayena datani nyavasat tanideshakrit. Thus the personality of Kali, by the directions of Mahārāja Parīkṣit, the son of Uttara, was allowed to live in those 5 places. Purport. Thus the age of Kali began with gold standardization, and therefore falsity, intoxication, animal slaughter, and prostitution are rampant all over the world, and the saner section is eager to drive out corruption. The counteracting process is suggested above, and everyone can take advantage of this suggestion. Om Jnana Timirantasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhakti-vedanta Svaminiti Namane Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatardine Vancha kalpatrubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I'll read the translations again. The personality of Kali asked for something more, and because of his begging, the king gave him permission to live where there is gold, because wherever there is gold, there is also falsity, intoxication, lust, envy, and enmity. Thus the personality of Kali, by the directions of Mahārāja Parīkṣit, the son of Uttara, was allowed to live in those 5 places. Hare Krishna. Good to be back after 2 weeks of living in the forest and at the Harmony Collective in Michigan. So, here in these verses, we find the end of the dealings between Kali personified and Mahārāja Parīkṣit. In response to Kali's surrender at the lotus feet of Mahārāja Parīkṣit, Kali has been given 5 places to reside. And without looking, who can try to remember what the 5 places were?
Gold.
Where there's gold?
Intoxication.
Meat eating.
Yeah.
Prostitution and gambling. Good job. So yes, these are the 5 places where Mahārāja Parīkṣit was allowed, or where he allowed Kali to reside. Now, what does Kali bring to the places where he resides? In essence, one could say that Kali brings with him corruption. And I think that all of us have experienced that or noticed that. Definitely not in ourselves, but those other people, definitely seen a lot of corruption in them. I'm being sarcastic first. Definitely lots of corruption in myself. And so this age of Kali, this is the age of hypocrisy and quarrel. Hypocrisy and quarrel, these are 2 forms of corruption. Corruption of the internal environment and corruption of the external environment. We proclaim ideas, or we may even hold ideas within ourselves, but then do we follow up with those ideas? Are we portraying ourselves honestly to ourselves and to others? Are we having honest dealings with others? And if we're not, then, or if others are not, then naturally there's quarrel that takes place. It's the external manifestation of corruption. In Kali-yuga, people are just dying to have quarrel with each other. I see so many cases of videos that come out on like Reddit where it's like these people are just really getting like a rasa, this like flavor from just having quarrel with people for no reason. Just really go over and above in having quarrel. And so, and over the smallest things, I experienced this working at Starbucks. Many of the customers would find any reason to quarrel with the employees. It was rather crazy. This is a symptom of corruption and also of dissatisfaction of the heart. It is a principle in psychology that if someone is not receiving positive social experience, or if they're not experiencing pleasure in a positive way, then naturally they resort to seeking out that pleasure or that social interaction, that social connection, that attention through negative means. And when one is very much deprived of happiness, community, connection, then the distinction within the mind between positive and negative engagement and social connections becomes distorted. And one comes to think of these negative interactions as being of the same substance as the positive interactions. And this is something we can also see practically. So many relationships are very toxic. It's almost like a calling card of modern times. That person is very toxic. Or, I had a toxic relationship with such and such person. I'm recovering from trauma from my boyfriend that I had. So everyone is saying such things and feeling such things within themselves. So this is because of the internal and external manifestations of corruption due to the influence of Kali. Actually, it's not just due to the influence of Kali per se. We shouldn't just blame Kali personified for our faults or for the faults of the environment in which we find ourselves. We should also understand, why is it that we were born in the human form of life in Kali-yuga? It's explained in the 11th and early 12th cantos that the very reason why Kali-yuga even exists is because a certain class of jiva wishes to have full reign to engage in sinful activities. And one can only engage in sinful activities to the full extent in the human form of life. So therefore Kali-yuga is there specifically for jivas to be born in the human form of life and commit sinful activities. So if we're born in Kali-yuga, in the human form of life, then we might consider what brought us here. It wasn't just by chance that we got here, but rather we are ourselves carriers of the mood and purpose of Kali-yuga. So we should be able to hold these different aspects simultaneously, understand both sides of the coin. There's the external situation, there's also the internal situation that brought us to this external situation. So, in the time of Mahārāja Parīkṣit, as Prabhupada said, these 5 places that Kali was given reign over, or specifically the first 4 of them, places of intoxication, places of illicit sex, places of gambling, and places of animal slaughter. In the time of Mahārāja Parīkṣit, these places were distinct from the rest of civilized society. And Mahārāja Parīkṣit was very careful in his ruling of his kingdom to regulate these 4 things according to the principles of Dharma, if not to eradicate them completely. As was brought up by Srila Prabhupada in the purport to verse 38, the one before the two that I read today. He gave a very thorough explanation of the fact that principles of piety and impiety are specific to the individuals who are expected to engage in pious or impious activity. And this is also something that is very, very thoroughly explained by Kṛṣṇa in the 11th canto of the Bhagavad-gītā. So I would really highly recommend reading it. I believe that the chapter was called the Vedic path or something like that. Is one of the later chapters of the Bhagavad-gītā, the discussion between Kṛṣṇa and Uddhava just before Kṛṣṇa disappeared from this world. And so what does Kṛṣṇa describe? Kṛṣṇa describes that depending, as Prabhupada said in the purport to the previous verse, that depending on the qualities of the individual, the principles of dharma, the principles of piety and impiety are different. So Kṛṣṇa points out that someone who is intelligent might read the Vedas. They might see this apparent discrepancy that one kind of people is prescribed to do one activity and others prescribed to not do the same activity. And then they might think that the Vedas are contradictory. There's no conclusion that can be drawn from the Vedas. The Vedas say or prescribe or teach all possible kinds of behavior practically. So how can one read the Vedas and derive any sense of what is the actual purpose of life? So Kṛṣṇa points this out, and he says that therefore one must understand devotional service, and one must understand what is the ultimate purpose of the Vedas, what is the ultimate purpose of Dharma. The purpose is that different classes of people have different tendencies, they have different activities, they have different qualities, and therefore the Vedas prescribe regulations and standards of dharma that gradually elevate over the course of many lifetimes these different people to the mode of goodness. And typically speaking, being elevated to the mode of goodness is a prerequisite for attaining liberation or engaging in devotional service also. Kṛṣṇa talks about that in the Bhagavad-gītā, that in order to engage in devotional service with determination, one needs to be free from all sinful reactions in this life and in previous lives. One has to be equal-minded. One has to be free from attachment and aversion. So I don't know how many of you can say that about yourself. I cannot say that about myself. Therefore, we're depending on the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's come in the mood of the devotee and the mood of Radharani specifically, which I'll talk about a bit later, in regard to Gadadhara Pandit. And he has given devotional service without discrimination, that no matter if someone is qualified or unqualified, they can take to the process of devotional service. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives us the taste of devotional service, the taste of what it means to have prema bhakti, even before we are qualified. And as we advance in devotional service, that taste becomes more and more prominent. But after getting that initial taste, we have to ourselves take to the process with determination. And then to the extent that we develop that determination, then we can actually advance. So Prabhupada, or Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's giving the free samples. You go to Costco, you can get so many free samples. And so, but once you've gotten the free sample, then yeah, if you're vegetarian, you might not get so many free samples in Costco. But once you've gotten the free sample, then okay, now if you want to continue to taste this, then you have to buy the product. So this is the system of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So yes, so Kṛṣṇa discusses this point about the different standards of dharma for different kinds of people. He discusses this also not just in the 11th canto of Bhagavatam, but Kṛṣṇa also discusses it in the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad-gītā, especially in the last half of the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad-gītā. So in summary, what does Kṛṣṇa say in the last half of the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad-gītā? Kṛṣṇa is describing to Arjuna that everyone has different proclivities and qualities. Everyone is born into these bodies with different proclivities and qualities. And where do these proclivities and qualities come from? They come from the influence of the 3 modes of material nature. Each of us is ruled by or has a predominance of a certain combination of the 3 modes of material nature. And that impels us to act in particular ways, to think in particular ways. And therefore, Kṛṣṇa says that dharma should be taken up according to one's proclivities and qualities. Why should one take up such dharma? Because taking up such dharma based on one's proclivities and qualities allows one to bring the senses, the mind, and intelligence under control in a gradual way. This is the whole point of dharma, particularly material dharma, is to bring the mind, senses, and intelligence under control. And this principle is so important that Kṛṣṇa very famously says that to do one's own proper dharma according to one's nature, one must do this, even if there are faults in one's execution of such dharma. Whereas on the other hand, if one engages in dharma that is made for someone with a different set of proclivities and qualities, then he says this is a very dangerous position. And we have seen this practically in the history of ISKCON, people taking up dharma that is inconsistent with their nature. We saw many examples, especially in the 80s and 90s, many young men who had taken sannyas in the 70s and 60s, and then they fell down from their sannyas platform. Why? Because that was not the proper dharma for the qualities and proclivities that they had. So therefore, they were not able to uphold that. And this is just like the medical patient. The medical patient, proper medical patient, she takes the medicine that has been prescribed to her by her doctor. She doesn't say that, well, actually, I like the taste of this other medicine better than the medicine that you want me to take, doctor. So therefore, I'm going to take this other medicine instead. If she were to do that, then she would not have her illness cured. So instead, the faithful medical patient tries to follow the regimen the doctor gives, even if there is discomfort or fault in her execution of this regimen and her taking of the medicine, because she knows that the doctor has given that medicine and that regimen specifically for her to get better. And a practical example that came to my mind in this regard was my father after he had a stroke about 8 months ago. He had a stroke. And so the doctors prescribed that after he was released from the hospital to go home, he should practice walking. He should use railings, and he should use family members to stabilize him, and walls to stabilize himself. And in this way, he should practice walking. And in the beginning, this was extremely difficult for him. And my father would do this for only a few minutes, and then he would be absolutely exhausted by the end of that. And he would have to sleep for a few hours to recover just from trying to walk for a few minutes and not even doing a good job of walking. He had to take so much time to recover. So my father, he could have decided that, well, the doctor told me to walk, but I can get around in a wheelchair instead. And then I can get more done because I'm not so worn out from trying to walk. But if my father had taken that sort of mentality and ignored the prescriptions of the doctor, then he never would have gotten better to the point of now being able to walk again, to my understanding. I'm not close with my family. So the right medicine, the right dharma, needs to be taken up by the right person according to one's nature. And therefore the Vedas give different prescriptions for different classes of people. For instance, for some people it is considered pious to drink alcohol according to specific regulations. While for a brahmana it is considered impious to drink alcohol at any point in time. Or another example, for a householder, it is pious to engage in sexual activity with one's partner, especially when paired with the garbhadhana samskara, whereas for a brahmachari to engage in sexual activity would be impious, even if they do the garbhadhana samskara beforehand. That would be a little ridiculous. But impious in any situation for a brahmachari. So depending on the position of the living entity, there's different kinds of dharma that are regulated. And so this is the system that was in place under Mahārāja Parīkṣit. The activities that are completely outside the prescriptions of dharma, he worked to eradicate, traveling throughout his kingdom to eradicate such activities, such as Kali's abuse of the cow and the bull. And for those activities which could be regulated under Dharma, then he was making sure that such proper regulation was in place. In modern times, however, we find a very different situation. Instead of the activities of intoxication, meat eating, sex, and gambling only occurring within specific contexts regulated by Dharma amongst specific people, who have been prescribed such activity by Dharma. Instead, these activities are going on virtually everywhere at all times amongst all people. If we walk out into the street, if you go in any direction, you can encounter these four things: intoxication, meat eating, illicit sex, and gambling. Even on the sidewalk, you'll experience all of these things. And when money is added to the mix, then when money is in the hands of people who are not regulated by the principles of Dharma and who have not been trained in proper behavior and higher principles of life, then this simply amplifies the problems of human corruption, and they become more intensely prominent. And this we also practically see, especially in San Francisco. This is kind of the home to that principle. San Francisco has one of the highest median incomes of all places in the U.S. It has the highest concentration of billionaires of anywhere in the U.S. And what kinds of activities do these billionaires engage in? They practically exclusively engage in sinful activities. You know, we saw that in the Epstein files. We see that in the form of ugra karma of the tech industry and the horrible situation of the real estate and housing situation, where in the name of hoarding properties and assets, then people are not able to find a proper place to live. So this is all due to the combination of human corruption and money. And we've also seen this principle of human corruption or corruption of the consciousness in regard to money in one particular pastime in the 10th canto of Bhagavatam. And I'm curious who can think of what pastime am I thinking of where money played a big role in corrupting someone or two people, to give you a hint. In Kṛṣṇa Lila or Vrindavan Lila.
And Griva and Narthula.
Yes, exactly. Yes, Manigriva and Nalakuvara. So these were sons of the treasurer of the heavenly planets, and they became completely intoxicated by their opulence and their wealth, and became unregulated in their engagement in illicit sex and intoxication especially. And so I just thought I would read a couple verses from that chapter, the 10th chapter of the 10th canto of Bhagavatam, about the condition of Nalakuvara and Manigriva. So it says, so Narada came upon them, and it says, seeing the two sons of the demigods naked and intoxicated by opulence and false prestige, Devarshi Narada, in order to show them special mercy, desired to give them a special curse. Thus he spoke as follows. Narada Muni said, among all the attractions of material enjoyment, the attraction of riches bewilders one's intelligence more than having beautiful bodily features, taking birth in an aristocratic family, and being learned. When one is uneducated, but falsely puffed up by wealth, the result is that one engages his wealth in enjoying wine, women, and gambling. It's like the story of modern times. Unable to control their senses, rascals who are falsely proud of their riches or their birth in aristocratic families are so cruel that to maintain their perishable bodies, which they think will never grow old or die, they kill poor animals without mercy. Sometimes they kill animals merely to enjoy an excursion. While living, one may be proud of one's body, thinking oneself a very big man, minister, president, or even demigod. But whatever one may be, after death this body will turn either into worms, into stool, or into ashes. If one kills poor animals to satisfy the temporary whims of this body, one does not know that he will suffer in his next birth, for such a sinful miscreant must go to hell and suffer the results of his actions. So, as Prabhupada said in verse 40, in his purport to verse 40, Prabhupada said that the saner section of human society is interested in how to drive out the influence of corruption in this world, and how to overcome issues of envy, hypocrisy, violence, falsehood. And so I just got back from an excursion which is very precisely centered on such an idea of driving out the influence of corruption within this world and overcoming issues of envy, hypocrisy, violence, and falsehood. And that was through the Rainbow Gathering. So Rainbow Gathering, for those of you who are not familiar, is a gathering that happens once a year, and there's also smaller rainbow gatherings that happen throughout the year. And it always happens centered around the 4th of July. And the way it works is there will be a place in the middle of a national forest chosen, and then thousands of people converge upon this place. Mostly the kinds of people who you might describe as being hippies. These are people who are very much seekers, and everyone comes upon the forest and they try to form a community and live a life that is free from the corruptions of money, free from violence. The food at Rainbow Gathering is almost exclusively vegan. Free from sectarian divisions between people based on external designations, and They seek to form a community, an impromptu community based on mutual care, mutual respect, mutual understanding, higher purposes of life, inclusivity, and love. And so in order to achieve this, this community has no money, all the food is free, and it's only paid back through reciprocated acts of goodwill and spontaneous acts of good deeds. There's kind of this expectation at Rainbow Gathering that if someone needs help, then you just help them. Like there's one day in the morning of July 4th, it's the tradition at Rainbow Gathering that no one speaks. Have a whole morning of silence, and then that silence is broken by a prayer for peace at noon, which is the prayer for peace is preceded by everyone chanting Om for like 45 minutes while like holding hands in a circle. Is actually very powerful. It was quite incredible to experience. So on the 4th of July, the Kṛṣṇa kitchen, I was there with devotees. I didn't just go there by myself. I don't know if that would be very advisable for a devotee or aspiring devotee to go there by themselves. But so our kitchen needed water. And the way that water works at Rainbow Gathering is that springs and creeks are tapped, and they run these long hoses to bring the water to different distribution points. And so there will be a faucet, or there will be like a reservoir of water, and then you can fill up filtered water for drinking or for use in the kitchens. So our kitchen needed water. And so I took 3 of these 5-gallon containers, and I put them in a cart, and then I brought them down the hill to where you could get filtered water at. But to get back up, it was an extremely bumpy path full of roots and rocks and all kinds of twists and turns. So the prospect of me actually by myself being able to haul 15 pounds of water plus a cart up this path, kind of a steep hill too, was not so great. But you know, I was trying to serve the devotees, and I was also one of like the first ones awake. So I thought, you know, I should do this. So I was at the water spigot and I was filling up the containers. And then I filled up one container, put it to the side, started filling up the next one. Someone was walking by, and we weren't speaking, so, you know, there was no words exchanged between us. But they just took the water container, and they walked it up the hill to the Kṛṣṇa camp. And I was like, oh, wow, like, that's so amazing. And then I finished filling up the second one, put it aside, start filling up the third. Another person just happens to come by, and they grab it and bring it up to the Kṛṣṇa kitchen. And so and then I think with the third one also, someone also brought it up. So all I ended up having to bring up was the cart until like the last leg. They've left it outside the path to Kṛṣṇa kitchen. So, you know, I had to bring it along that last section, but that section was flat, so that was easy. So this is how Rainbow Gathering works. Payment is not through money, but just through good deeds, or through volunteering in the kitchens that you receive food from. And the kitchens are themselves run by a variety of charitable and spiritually centered groups of volunteers. You find all these different religious groups. There's a Jewish kitchen, there's the Kṛṣṇa kitchen, there's like all these different groups of people who make tons and tons of food to feed whoever wants to come. And there's a huge prominence of spiritual teachings, spiritual expression, and spiritual discussion. And every evening there's a collective gathering of attendees for a shared dinner, which is also preceded by chanting Om. for like a few minutes. Everyone stands in circles and holds hands and chants Om. It's, again, like really powerful experience. I was a little skeptical going into it, but it was very incredible. And so for all the faults that are brought into the rainbow gathering by different varieties of people who come to rainbow gathering with different kinds of conceptions, attachments, proclivities, weaknesses, you'll find intoxication at rainbow gathering, although alcohol is banned from rainbow gathering. So no alcohol, but there's a lot of marijuana, a lot of tobacco, a lot of like magic mushrooms. I don't know that I would say a lot actually, but it's there. There's illicit sex. So despite these faults that one might see, at the same time one can, or I think one should say that it is an incredibly beautiful attempt at asking and finding the answer to what is possible outside the corruptions of Kali-yuga, that we not only see all around us, but are also imposed upon us by the institutions of the state and modern governance. So rainbow gathering is full of people who are trying to overcome the corruptions of Kali-yuga. And thus, rainbow gathering is a fertile field for spiritual cultivation, because these people are there to find a higher purpose, to find higher knowledge, to find a new way of life. So as Kṛṣṇa says in Bhagavad-gītā, one of the kinds of people who approaches him is those who are jigyasu, those who are inquisitive. So rainbow gathering is full of inquisitive people. And however, there is a key to this whole thing of overcoming the corruptions of Kali-yuga, which is missing in the rainbow gathering. And that is the comprehensive understanding of matter, spirit, and Kṛṣṇa, and the understanding of how matter, spirit, and Kṛṣṇa can be brought together in harmony with each other. Without spiritual knowledge, even though the people of rainbow gathering try very valiantly and sincerely to overcome the corruptions of Kali-yuga, it's not possible. Why is this? It's because the root problem of conditioned living entities within the material world and the corruptions which arise from that condition are the result of uncontrolled mind, senses, intelligence, and ego. And this is nicely summarized or pointed out in the 5th canto of Bhagavatam, chapter 18, verse 12. There it says that all godly qualities reside in one who is situated in pure devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead without any personal motivation. On the other hand, where are the good qualities of one devoid of devotional service to Hari? Such a person is frantically wandering the material universe, searching for happiness in temporary external things, driven by speculations of the mind. So this is our condition as conditioned souls. We think that we walk the world with freedom, but the reality is that actually we are pulled in so many directions by our mind and senses. Our subtle body is a storehouse of impressions from countless lifetimes. And these impressions shape our ideas of how we are going to find satisfaction through engaging our senses with sense objects. And so our subtle body has this impression that if I contact this particular sense with this particular sense object, in the past when I did that, I derived so much enjoyment from it. So if I again pursue this connection of the senses and the sense objects, then I will find that same satisfaction and I will feel fulfillment. This is what is called the speculations of the mind. The mind is not working on facts, rather simply speculating about how satisfaction is going to be found. And in fact, the mind completely overblows the benefit that we will actually get from these material engagements. And the mind disregards higher knowledge about the reactions that we will get from such activity, as was pointed out by Narada Muni in the section of the 10th canto that I read. People get overwhelmed by their pursuance of different forms of material enjoyment, and then they completely disregard the reactions that they will have to incur from such activity. And the mind makes us think that there's so much potential for satisfaction in these activities, but actually whatever satisfaction we derive is simply temporary and is unsustainable. As I was listening to a lecture by my Gurudev yesterday, he was pointing out there's no material activity that one can engage in consistently and not have your experience of that activity become disgusting. If you watch your favorite episode of your favorite TV show over and over and over and over again, you'll become disgusted by watching it. If you eat the same food over and over and over again, you will become repulsed by such food, because material things have diminishing return, but the mind does not think like that. The mind thinks that I will engage in these activities and then I will find satisfaction. Then when that satisfaction diminishes, then, oh, now I got to find another activity. And this other sense is pulling me in this other direction. And in this way, as Kṛṣṇa says in Bhagavad-gītā, that the intelligence and the mind of the conditioned soul is many-branched. We're being pulled in so many directions. So in this way, conditioned souls are victim to the fickle dictations of the mind, and thus we become corrupted. Naturally, we become corrupted because we're not experiencing the pleasures and the fulfillment that we're actually looking for. And thus, no one can remain on steady ground in regard to having good qualities while they are afflicted by such material corruption. They're constantly searching for firm ground that they can stand on in the material world, but instead they are running here and there trying to find something which isn't real. So although we should congratulate an effort like Rainbow Gathering at trying to find higher ground amongst the corruptions of Kali-yuga, we should also know that without higher knowledge, without purification of the senses, and ultimately without devotional service, and gradually rising to the level of pure devotional service, the peace and purity of human society which they are striving after is simply not possible. You can have so many prayers for peace, but afterwards the corruptions of Kali-yuga just come back again. After I got back from Rainbow Gathering, I joined a few Facebook groups for Rainbow Gathering attendees. Saw so much quarrel between these people over tiny things. And this is right after they were at Rainbow Gathering, which is all about not having quarrel and having love and compassion for each other. In fact, at Rainbow Gathering, when you pass by someone, you're supposed to say, "Loving you, brother," "Loving you, sister," "Loving you, family." People yell this, and actually all throughout the day, groups of people get together and just yell this into the ether. But it's not possible. It's not sustainable without the purification. So they can take up so many external adjustments, but without the internal transformation, then the contaminations that are there in the heart from lifetime after lifetime of material engagement still carry away even the most sincere seeker. But we should also, we should recognize the valiant effort of these people, and we should make the effort to ourselves be there for people who want to inquire more deeply. We should make the effort to present the science and process of devotional service in an attractive way and show real love and real compassion to such inquisitive people. Rainbow Gathering is like a fertile valley for making devotees. Actually, the vast majority of people at Rainbow Gathering know about Hare Kṛṣṇa. I would be walking along the path in the forest and chanting Hare Kṛṣṇa to myself, and then next thing I knew, all the people around me would just be spontaneously singing Hare Kṛṣṇa. Is really crazy. I never experienced anything like that before. And so so these people they're ripe for this. They are looking for this, and it is up to us as devotees to show them that through devotional service, the corrupted longings that are stored within the heart and the external manifestations of corruption which come about due to those corrupted longings can clear away. Once they've cleared away, then we can grow into real expression of the soul. We can experience real love directed towards the supremely lovable, the supremely inclusive, supreme personality of Godhead. And then naturally we will be able to feel real camaraderie with and love for all other living beings. Thus we will actually fulfill the goal of rainbow gathering. But if devotees don't take the opportunity to go to such gatherings and find such inquisitive people and show practically what does it mean to actually live according to these principles, then so many opportunities are lost for these seekers, for these people who are jigyasu and inquisitive. So I feel very fortunate to have gotten the opportunity to go to Rainbow Gathering and experience this. And it was actually such nectar, despite the great inconveniences of being a Rainbow Gathering, constantly dirty. Is like literally impossible to not be dirty all the time. And it was so hot and humid, just like sweating all the time. Had to sleep on tree roots on the ground. There was, you couldn't find a single flat ground with no tree roots or rocks to sleep on. So, like wake up with so much back pain, but it was completely worth it. I actually felt very sad to leave because it was so wonderful being there. But of course, once it was over, then, had to leave. But I would highly recommend that devotees take up such austerities for the sake of helping out such inquisitive people. Okay, now if there are any questions or comments, I can take them, and then after questions and comments, I'll speak about Gadadhar Pandit and Bhaktivinoda Thakur. It's the disappearance day of both of them, and we're fasting until noon, so we can go a little bit longer. So I've already gone longer, so I'll not speak too much about them, but any questions or comments or complaints?
Actually, a lot of Russian devotees do somewhat similar to like the Om thing, but they gather online 4 times a month, and then in person like whenever, like at least once a month, to do different mantras. But it's sort of different from chanting. Like they do it. It's kind of how I was introduced as well. They do like they say Hare Krishna really really slowly, but then all together as a big group. And actually, I was listening online last time, and now it's up to 1,100 people who come like in Russia to do this. And they say, well, they do different mantras every time, but every time I come, it's Hare Krishna or Hare Rama, so or Hallelujah. So I have a feeling it's those 3 that. But anyway, so I know the experience of like how powerful, again slightly different from chanting, but like everyone's voice is being together in like the same space is very powerful.
Yeah.
I had a question about earlier in the class. I wrote down, you said to engage in your Dharma. And my question is, how do you know your Dharma?
You read Career Dharma. You talk to your spiritual master. And your authorities, and also carefully study what are the different symptoms of different kinds of people, and then figure out based on advice from others, based on your own study, discussion with senior devotees, and you can find out what's your qualities and what's the right Dharma.
Like, is this, I looked up, like, can you look up in scripture, age, gender, like space, time, and find like a, what to do? Like, is this the Varna, or is this also, like, you have your Dharma, your age, like brahmacharya?
Yeah, it's beyond just Varna, Varna and ashram. But then even, we are outside of the Varnashram system, technically speaking. As Americans, we are in a society that's outside Varnashram. and we might try in our own way to reconstruct Varnashram, but it's not possible to fully do so. Fully doing so would mean that people start in the brahmachari ashram from 5 years old. I cannot say that I personally was a brahmachari at 5 years old. It's not until I was 18. Usually people don't join the brahmachari ashram until their early adulthood. So that's just one example. So actually devotional service is the main principle, but depending on our life situation, depending on the material attachments that we have, our qualities, the activities that we're attached to, then Kṛṣṇa says in the 11th canto of the Bhagavad-gītā, of the Bhagavatam, that one should take up regulations that will engage one's material proclivities in a progressive way. So many books could be written about this subject matter and should be. I can't exhaustively or fully answer your question, but it is something that all of us should strive for, to understand where are we coming from, what's the conditioning that we are coming to devotional service with, what are our proclivities, what are our needs. We all have certain needs, a certain way of living that is suitable for us. So we should understand what this is and then find how to engage in that in a progressive way that will bring us closer to Kṛṣṇa and bring those proclivities under control. That's the overall principle. I hope that helps a little. Any other questions, comments, complaints?
I just wanted to add that that story about Mandareva and Narakula. It was like a really bad situation. Like the two guys were so, to my recollection, they were so high on their wealth that they were like partying with girls in the sea, and Lord Shiva like walked past them and they couldn't even recognize Lord Shiva.
Yeah, Narada Muni walked past.
Okay. Yeah, they couldn't see a great soul. They couldn't even tell.
Yeah.
Like right in front of them because they were so. I think that was important.
Yeah.
Lesson that it's communicating that, like, hey, when you're caught up in irreligiosity, that you can't even see amazing, the Lord's servants.
Yeah, the phrase given in Bhagavatam is pashyanapi na pashyati, that although one is seeing, one is not actually seeing. So based on our conditioned nature, we can't actually see what's right in front of us. Our vision is distorted by our conditioning, by our ego. And we can't actually see the real truth. Yeah. Thank you very much.
I had one question, kind of. First of all, I'm sorry. I was falling asleep, so I thought it's best for me to leave the class and not distract anymore.
You weren't the only one.
I had a question about Mahārāja Parīkṣit. So him giving Kali these 5 places to live. Was it out of compassion or was it like from Mahārāja Parīkṣit? Was it calculated decision because he knew that these 5 things does not exist at all? So. Or like, did he know that somewhere this exists and the Kali can live there?
Yeah.
Why did he give these 5 places in the first place?
Yeah, I believe Prabhupada explained in an earlier purport that Mahārāja Parīkṣit was being cunning in his decision to award those first 4 places because he knew that such places didn't exist in a sinful capacity in his kingdom. And then gold was like because Kali said, well, I can't live in any of these 4 places you've given me. They don't exist. So, okay, also in gold, when people are corrupted by gold, then you can live there also. One can also understand this as being an arrangement of Kṛṣṇa for the advent of Kali-yuga. Like I was saying, Kṛṣṇa brings about Kali-yuga for a reason. Kali-yuga is here for a specific purpose. The qualities of Kali-yuga is not just random, but it's actually because there's a purpose behind it. And so I think one can also understand it in that regard, that Mahārāja Parīkṣit was being guided by Kṛṣṇa within the heart to award Kali these 5 different places, which then become the most prominent storehouses of the corruptions of Kali-yuga.
Thank you, Sukhi. It was a well-researched class. I have a question and I also have a correction.
Okay.
So it says where there is gold, all those other 5 things will also be. So the 5th thing isn't gold. Where there is gold, those other 5 things, and the 5th thing is enmity. Even the verse says it like that. Now my question is, why is Srila Prabhupada so obsessed with this gold standard?
Yeah, I found that interesting.
Gold is like the terrible thing, and then it's signifying wealth, and from that wealth come all these other 5 things. But then Prabhupada's like, if it was actually gold, then it would be okay. And it's like,
yeah.
because of the paper currency, that's the messed up thing.
Yeah, I don't personally have an answer to that because I don't really know anything about economics or what Prabhupada might have been specifically referencing, or a lot of what's in Prabhupada's purports is he's reacting to a specific thing that was going on or that he was seeing. So I don't know the context of him writing that per se, or the economic theory behind it. So I simply read it with folded hands.
He's very specific about why he doesn't like paper currency in the purport, especially at the time of the 70s with all these oil shocks and stuff going on. It says when we're not working with gold, we have paper currency, it allows bad rulership.
Well, this is in the 60s, he's writing in
Okay,
India.
fine, in the 60s, but he's saying it allows bad rulership. It allows them to artificially inflate and corrupt the economy and do all these horrible things. And so at face value, he's saying that paper currency, that a straight up gold standard checks the rulership.
Yeah.
So
But
maybe
gold is
one.
still bad then? Or
Well, that's the other half of the question. I can't comment.
Well, it's not like there wasn't gold in Mahārāja Parīkṣit's kingdom. And Mahārāja Parīkṣit himself had lots of gold.
yeah.
But it's when gold is manifested in a corrupted way. I think that's the point.
There's the attachment and sort of
The adharma.
dharma
Yeah.
type gold where you sort of accumulate and become proud because you have the gold and all that.
Yeah, it
So-
becomes like a catalyst for.
I can think of one thing, with all these dhatus that we have, like iron, metal, all that, and gold is the highest one, and it has very high frequency to protect the century place, to protect your body from infection and stuff. So it was used for that Ayurvedic purpose, and that to communicate the gold, like in every temple in India, you can see on top of that, you can see gold, the cap, like a small cap. So in Satya Yuga, or like the yugas before right now, how they would communicate telepathically is from that frequency. They did not have like a phone or stuff like that. So the more gold you use, the higher the frequency is. So I think in that sense, not for the material benefit, like if you use that for material benefit, then that is Kali, like that is Kali, where Kali gonna be coming and then residing. But if you use that for communicating and then in terms of frequency and then the protection of your like body, Ayurvedic way, then I think that was good. Maybe Prabhupada was going that way.
Can we go?
Yeah,
Can we get one?
we need a gold cap
For
on.
now we have Wi-Fi.
Oh. You can have gold or Wi-Fi.
We want to communicate with the devas.
Yeah.
Exactly. Wrong telepathic frequency.
Yeah, so
2.4 gigahertz.
Wi-Fi.
also they like it's less now, but in temples, when we go to temple we feel so peaceful, right? It is because of that frequency. And when they make temples, they put not gold but maybe they're not gold but copper. They put the copper down when they start the foundation of the any building of the temple, and on top they put real gold. So with that metal frequency we feel peaceful, and then that has like a healing energy frequency to that, and that just melts out all stress and gives us a space to focus on our spirituality. So that's why we feel peaceful at temples, inside temples. And devas, they did use gold as a telepathy.
Thank you. Okay, now I'll speak briefly about Gadadhara Pandit and Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So it is the disappearance day of both of them. So I'll speak first about Gadadhara Pandit. So whenever we chant Hare Krishna, what do we precede it with? We say, Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita, Gadadhara, Shrivas Adi Gaura Bhaktivrinda. So,
What's the correct pronunciation?
yeah, Gadadhara.
Gadadhara.
Yeah, it's that was good.
As opposed to Gadadhara.
Yeah, Gadadhara. Yeah, that's not right.
Gadadhara.
Yeah, people should learn how to pronounce these things properly. Prabhupada gave us in the back of each of his books, there's a Sanskrit pronunciation guide. Prabhupada would chastise his disciples for not knowing how to pronounce Sanskrit properly. So anyways, so in the Adi Leela of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he gives us a key verse for understanding this Panchatattva mantra. He says, Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Svarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhaktashaktikam. Says that in Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes, we have Krishna manifesting in terms of 5 different components. So Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa. First, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes in the form of a devotee. Svarupakam, in his expansion, is Lord Nityananda, who's non-different from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Bhaktavataram, that's Advaita Acharya. He's the incarnation of a devotee, or you could say he's the devotional incarnation. Actually, all the expansions of Krishna coming from Balaram and forward, they are all predominated by the mood of servitude towards Krishna. If you read Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Adi Kanda, first chapter, the entire and second chapter, also it's completely about this point. Vrindavan Das Thakur just like hammers this point over and over and over again. It's actually pretty incredible. I'd never come across such a thorough elaboration on this point. So Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam, the devotee, that's Shrivas Thakur, and then Namami Bhaktashaktikam. I offer my obeisances to the Bhakti Shakti, the the energy of the devotee. So Srimati Radharani, yeah, Gadadhara.
That's BhaktiSF.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Srimati Radharani is the personification of devotional service. Srimati Radharani is the Hladini Shakti. Hladini Shakti means the pleasure potency. Krishna's internal potency is, in a general way, divided into 3 different categories: Sandhini, Samvit, and Hladini Shakti. So Hladini is the pleasure potency, and this is the component that rules or creates devotional service. Devotional service is a manifestation of Hladini Shakti. What devotional service itself means, you're giving pleasure to Krishna. Hrishikena Hrishikesha Sevanam Bhaktir Uchite. This is the definition of devotional service, that one's senses are engaged in pleasing the senses of the master of the senses, of Hrishikesha. So this is what it means to engage in devotional service. You're giving pleasure to Krishna. Srimati Radharani is the ultimate manifestation of this principle of giving pleasure to Krishna. And Gadadhara Pandit is an avatar of Srimati Radharani in Gaura Lila. I don't like to say incarnation, because incarnation, that means that they're taking on flesh. That's literally what incarnation means. So when people say that, like, Lord Ram is an incarnation of Krishna, that's incorrect. So I very strictly avoid that.
Avatar is the English word.
Yeah, avatar. Yeah, now avatar means something else too in English, but yeah, avatar means he or she who descends. So Gadadhar is the avatar of Srimati Radharani. She descends to participate in Gaura Lila as Gadadhara Pandit. Now, this brings up, you could say, a problem or a conflict, because Radharani is already in Gaura Lila, even without Gadadhara. How is Radharani in Gaura Lila besides Gadadhara? Radharani is there in the form of the bhava that is taken up by Krishna in his form as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And there's an important verse in the first chapter of Chaitanya Charitamrita. Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikritir Hladini Shakti Rasmad Ekat Vatman Vapi Bhuripura Deha Bedham Gitautau Chaitanyakyam Prakata Madhuna Tadvayam Chekyamaptam Radha Bhava Jyoti Suvalitam Naumi Krishna Svarupam. It says, first chapter, it's like verse 5, I believe. So this means the loving affairs of Sri Radha and Krishna are transcendental manifestations of the Lord's internal pleasure-giving potency. Although Radha and Krishna are one in their identity, previously they separated themselves. Now these 2 transcendental identities have again united in the form of Sri Krishna Chaitanya. I bow down to him who has manifested himself with the sentiment and complexion of Srimati Radharani, although he is Krishna himself. So Radha and Krishna combine to come in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's principal goal is to understand the experience of devotional service of Srimati Radharani. So if there were 2 Radharanis in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, then this would cause conflict. So therefore, in order to not interfere with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Radha Bhava, Gadadhar Pandit, instead of being in the mood of Radharani, although he is Radharani herself, Gadadhar takes on the mood of Srimati Rukmini Devi. And what is the difference between the mood of Rukmini and Radharani? Radharani is very contradictory, or you could say feisty in a sense, argumentative in her dealings with Krishna. She is always giving Krishna a hard time, lovingly. and this is characteristic of their pastimes. Whereas on the other hand, Rukmini, she is very submissive to Kṛṣṇa. She's always in a very external way trying to serve Kṛṣṇa, trying to fulfill Kṛṣṇa's purposes, instead of trying to get Kṛṣṇa to bow to her desires. Of course, I'm speaking on external levels, because Radharani's desire is also to fulfill Kṛṣṇa's desires, but Kṛṣṇa's desire is that she behave in this way. So Rukmini, there's an example that Kṛṣṇa tried to bring about some angry mood on the part of Rukmini by telling Rukmini that, oh, you made a mistake by being in a relationship with me. And he described so many apparent bad qualities that Kṛṣṇa had. And what was Rukmini's response? She started crying hearing this, because she thought, Kṛṣṇa is going to leave me. So this is the nature of Rukmini Devi. And similarly, this is the mood of Gadadhar Pandit. Gadadhar was very submissive in his dealings with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and also very submissive and humble in his dealings in general. There's one example of this scholar who came and was, at first, he was favorably associating with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates, but then somehow he became proud of his learning, and he decided that he was going to write a commentary on Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, which was going to surpass all other commentaries, even the commentary of Sridhara Swami, who Lord Chaitanya took the commentary of Sridhar Swami as the gold standard for commentary on Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. In fact, in the Gaudiya Sampradaya, said that all commentaries on the Bhagavatam should be in reference to Sridhar Swami. So this puffed up scholar, he decided that he was going to write a commentary that was that overcame Sridhar Swami, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates did not want to have anything to do with this. So this scholar found one associate of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that would listen to his commentary on Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, and that devotee was Gadadhar Pandit. And it wasn't because Gadadhar wanted to listen to this commentary. Actually, Gadadhar felt very bad listening to the commentary, because he knew that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was not pleased by this commentary. But because of Gadadhar's submissive and humble attitude, this scholar would come and be so insistent on sharing this commentary with Gadadhar that Gadadhar felt he couldn't resist hearing this from this scholar. He was so submissive in his mood. And so for weeks, this scholar was coming and just, talking Gadadhar's ear off day after day after day. And all the devotees, all the other associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu thought, like, what is Gadadhar doing? And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu externally was becoming angry at Gadadhar for this. So then eventually the whole situation resolved, and Jagadananda came to Gadadhar Pandit, and Jagadananda also has Madhurya Rasa towards Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, just like Gadadhar does. Only Jagadananda is in the mood of Satyabhama, who has a very similar mood of devotional service to Srimati Radharani. So Jagadananda is very argumentative in his dealings with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's always giving Chaitanya Mahaprabhu a hard time, and getting upset and angry at Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's very endearing if you read about the pastimes of Jagadananda. So he went to Gadadhar and he said, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has been saying so many angry things about you. Why didn't you go to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and tell him to stop saying these things? Whenever Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying such things about me, I get angry and I argue back against it. and Gadadhar said, no, it's okay. I know that actually Chaitanya Mahaprabhu loves me despite these external manifestations of anger. So I simply tolerate this, and I know that if I'm just determined in my service to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then everything will be all right. This is very different from Jagadananda. Jagadananda would have an argument with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and then lock himself in his room for days, fasting. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would have to come and try to pacify Jagadananda. It was very sweet. So this was the mood of Gadadhar, except for one occasion in which Gadadhar broke this submissive mood. And this occasion was when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was planning to go to Vrindavan for the first time after he had taken sannyas. All the devotees were going to go with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Vrindavan, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was leaving Jagannath Puri to begin on this excursion to Vrindavan. And Gadadhar Pandit, he had taken a vow called Kshetra Sannyas, which means that you're a sannyasi, but instead of traveling, you make a vow to stay within a particular holy place, a particular dham. And so actually, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had told Gadadhar, I'm going to be living in Jagannath Puri. I'll always be here. So you should take Kshetra Sannyas here in Puri, and you should serve the deity of Toda Gopinath. And then you and me will always be with each other. And so Gadadhar, oh yeah, that's a very great idea. So he took this vow of Kshetra Sannyas. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, all right, I'm going to Vrindavan now. Bye. So Gadadhar was very upset and wanted to go with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was leaving Puri, Gadadhar was following. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Gadadhar, you can't come with me to Vrindavan. You took a vow to stay in Jagannath Puri, to serve the Toda Gopinath deity. If you leave, then people will say that it's my fault, that you broke your vow. Gadadhar said, to hell with my vow of Kshetra Sannyas. Just by being with you, I'm serving the Toda Gopinath deity millions of times over. And then he said, and besides, actually, I won't go with you, but if we just happen to be walking and end up in the same place at the same time, then, hey, we just happened to show up in the same place. It's not that I'm following you. So who could fault you for that? And so that's what Gadadhar did. He would stay a little ways away from the main group of devotees, but he would still be following wherever they were going. And then finally they got outside of the boundaries of Jagannath Puri. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu called Gadadhar over, and Gadadhar came, of course, because that was Gadadhar's whole purpose, despite what he was saying. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, okay, you've proved your point now. You broke your vow of Kshetra Sannyas. Like, I hope you feel proud of yourself. Now will you please, you've proven that you love me, so will you please go back to Puri now and continue your service to Toda Gopinath? And so finally Gadadhar relented and he agreed to do so. Then as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was going to take him back to Puri, and all the devotees were leaving and Gadadhar fainted. And then Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya had to console Gadadhar and bring him back to Puri. So much could be said about Gadadhar. This is just a little taste. And then now I'll talk about Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur briefly. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he appeared in eastern India in the Bengal region in the, I believe, it was either the late 1700s or the early 1800s. And what Bhaktivinoda Thakur found he was not born in a Vaishnava family. He was born in a family of people who engaged in the worship of Kali, or I should say Kali, actually, Durga, which is very much popular in Bengal. People in Bengal are very fond of worshipping Durga. And so this was the setting in which Bhaktivinoda Thakur grew up in. But he was very dissatisfied with the materialistic dharma that he was being taught by his parents, and the materialistic dharma that he was seeing all around him. And so he became, externally speaking, he became a spiritual seeker. Actually, it's understood that Bhaktivinoda Thakur is a Nityasiddha devotee. He's an eternal associate of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he was simply exhibiting this behavior for the purpose of pastime, to achieve some goal in regard to his pastimes. But externally speaking, he became a seeker, and he started studying all different religions that were in his area. And actually, he became most attracted initially to Unitarian Universalism. I think a lot of devotees don't know this, but he became very involved in the Unitarian Universalist Church because he was attracted to the inclusivity and non-sectarian mood of the Unitarian Universalists. They're Christians, but they teach that they have kind of almost like a semi-Advaita understanding of God, that although God is distinct, he's also, everything is a manifestation of him. He's non-different from everything. So there's kind of this pseudo achintya bheda bheda tattva going on, simultaneous oneness and difference. And so that's the Unitarian aspect. And then Universalist aspect is that they teach that all different paths are partial or full manifestations of connection with the same one God. So they don't, just like Gaudiya Vaishnavas, we teach that, like Srila Prabhupada said so many times, the God of Christianity, God of Islam, they are worshiping the same Kṛṣṇa that we are, but their understanding is only partial. So therefore they have different conclusions, but the essential point is the same. So this was what Bhaktivinoda Thakur found in the Unitarian Universalist Church, and he was very attracted to this. But then eventually he heard about Chaitanya Charitamrita. Now, at that time, Gaudiya Vaishnavism had become very much obscured. It was practically only practiced in small groups in villages. The conclusions and practices of the Gaudiya Sampradaya had become corrupted by so many different Upasampradayas. This means they're disciplic successions that teach something which is contradictory to the proper teachings and conclusions of the Gaudiya Sampradaya. And so he was not attracted to these things. He saw hypocrisy and corruption and materialism within the manifestations of Gaudiya Vaishnavism that he did encounter at that time. But then he heard about Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, and after much effort he was able to acquire a copy of Chaitanya Charitamrita. They were practically like non-existent at the time, and he read it and he realized this is the highest truth. And so he took initiation. He was already initiated by Diksha within the Nityananda Parivar of the Gaudiya Sampradaya after he read Chaitanya Charitamrita. So that's the line of disciplic succession coming from Lord Nityananda. If you read Adi Leela of Chaitanya Charitamrita, it talks about this. Vrindavan Das Thakur was also a member of this Parivar, and also Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. And then Bhaktivinoda Thakur also met Jagadananda Das Babaji and became like a Shiksha disciple of Jagadananda Das Babaji. And so Bhaktivinoda Thakur very scrutinizingly studied Shastra. he very scrutinizingly gathered together the writings of the 6 Goswamis. He went to all efforts to obtain all Gaudiya literatures that he could. And then he made those available to the people in general. And also he wrote books and songs explaining these teachings of the 6 Goswamis. And so in this way, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is often called the 7th Goswami. Srinivasacharya said in his Sad Goswami Ashtika, he said that the 6 Goswamis very scrutinizingly studied Shastra and compiled together the conclusions of the Vedas in devotional service and explained and elaborated on this conclusion of devotional service. So this is the same purpose that Bhaktivinoda Thakur accomplished throughout his works of his life. His writings, his collection of various Gaudiya literatures. For instance, in Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's a book called Prema Vivarta, which was written by Jagadananda Pandit, but it had practically become lost by the time of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And so he was able to find a copy of this and then make it widely available. And so if you look at his books and if you look at his bhajans, you can find so much depth of devotional expression, devotional insights, and especially instructions about how devotional service can be applied in a modern context. In the time of the 6 Goswamis, pure devotees were able to get together and have these intimate dealings with each other, and they were able to avoid having to have the association of non-devotees. In modern society, things are just on a practical level. It's practically impossible to have such a situation, and to live in a holy place is very difficult. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur prescribed one should make one's own home a holy place. One should, he called this the Nam Hata program. One should install deities of Radha and Kṛṣṇa or Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu within one's home. And one should invite people over. One should have discourses on Bhagavatam and Bhagavad-gītā and take prasadam and chant Hare Kṛṣṇa together. And in this way, even though there weren't many Gaudiya Vaishnava temples around at the time, then even without a temple, still these small communities of like-minded devotees can come together and nourish each other and help each other along the path of devotional service. So although nowadays we have these temples where we can gather together, it's still very much favorable, and Prabhupada talks about this in some purports in the Bhagavatam, that householders should take up this Nam Hata program, that householders should invite people over, invite neighbors, invite friends over to come and hear Bhagavatam, to chant Hare Kṛṣṇa, to take prasadam. And in this way, every house can become like an embassy of the spiritual world. And this was something that I experienced very strongly in my time at the Harmony Collective in Ypsilanti in Michigan. It's a very small temple. Practically speaking, I mean, it's almost a stretch to call it a temple. It's a house with an altar of Sri Sri Gaura-Nitai, very beautiful deities. I think I shared a picture of them in the chat on WhatsApp. Or if not, then I'll make sure to do that. They're very, very beautiful. And so they are just a small, tight-knit community of householders who get together and they talk about Kṛṣṇa together and they chant Hare Kṛṣṇa together. And because they are so caring towards each other, so loving towards each other, so nourishing of each other, practically speaking, you don't even miss that there's not like a traditional temple there. They themselves create a temple. They themselves create a holy place in the dealings that they have with each other. So even if we don't have a temple, or maybe we don't have a temple yet, maybe that'll come in the future, but we can take up this Nam Hata program and nourish each other as instructed by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And so there's actually a book that he wrote which is specifically about this topic. So this would be good for devotees to read and study and implement. Okay, I think I will stop there to not go too far. I'm already an hour past the normal time when I normally would have ended. If there are any more questions or comments or anything anyone would like to add?
Just thank you for that.
Yes. All right.
Sing bhajan? Can we sing a bhajan? Bhakti.
Okay, do you have one in mind?
Should we sing whatever should we talk?
Okay. Yeah, we can do that.